So, welcome back to the 6th week lecture. Okay. So far we have discussed about a lot of issues related to performance management, starting with strategic alignment, then planning about the performance, looking at the prerequisites. Okay. Then we went on to discuss about planning performance, then executing performance, and then see that how performance is evaluated properly without any error. Okay. And then ultimately, we also discussed about what kind of skills would be required by the coaches. So, now we have covered more or less major part of the process related to the performance management. Okay. Once performance evaluation is done, okay, and you have the performance data with your hand, then you move to the next step, that is review and discussion, and how we are going to make use of this data for taking certain decisions related to HR, right. So, this topic 6th week topic basically we will discuss in much detail about the review process, how we go about analyzing the performance and discuss the performance related issues, and then how we can make use of this data for making certain decisions related to HR. So, the idea here is that once you are able to get the performance data, what you are going to do with that one, right. Are you going to review it? Are you going to analyze why it happened? Are you going to make certain decisions based on this data? So, all these issues are going to be discussed here. So, the most important thing that once performance evaluation happens is that you are going for review, okay, and discuss the performance. So, if you look at review, analysis and discussion, these three things they basically takes place more or less simultaneously. When you are reviewing, you also discuss the performance, you also try to find out the factors which have led to good performance and the factors which have not led to so good performance, right. But for the benefit of you, what I have done, we have segregated them into 3 major topics, that is how we go about performance review, and then discussion which is actually a part of review, but we have separated it out, and then how we know that what are the factors which led to good performance and what are the factors which led to bad performance, right. And that is where performance review is taken care, and then we will see that once you have reviewed the data and looked at the performance and you know that why this performance level happens, how we are going to make use of this data, whether we are going to use this data for taking certain administrative decisions or whether we are going to make use of this data for developmental purposes, right. And how we are going to link this performance record with other HR factors, maybe career, maybe promotions, maybe compensation and rewards and all kind of things, okay. And what is the process of doing it, okay. So, in this week we are going to cover all this, and in this lecture probably we are going to start with discussing the basic issues related to the performance review, what it is, what are the basic principles that we need to follow, and then we keep on discussing about other issues related to performance review. So, we progress with this performance review and see that what does it mean to say when we are talking about performance review, right. What does it mean? Now, if you look at the definition of performance review, it says that it is a process. It means that you are going through another process to see the level of performance that is achieved by the employees, right, and then you are going to discuss it. So, it has two parts, review and discussion. Okay. So, discussion we will talk about later, but in this case basically when you are going to review the performance, basically you are evaluating the quality of performance or the quantity of performance which we call the level of performance that is achieved by the employees, and then we move on to discuss it to assess that how this level of performance has been achieved, right. And finally, we also discuss that why this level of performance is achieved. So, there are 3 factors that is to be considered when we are talking about performance review. What is your performance? How did you achieve it? And what were the factors which facilitated or inhibited this level of performance, right. Now, if you look at this kind of performance review, you will find that many companies traditionally go for annual performance reviews, right. So, since evaluation takes place annually, so this review also happens annually, right. So, but now there is a shift If you are going for semi annual performance evaluation, then in that case you are going to evaluate performance semi annually. For new employees or those who are on probation, it could be done on a quarterly basis also. So, first of all you also need to decide about what is your evaluation period, because review is based on the evaluation period, right. So, you need to decide about your evaluation period, which is annual, semi annual or quarterly traditionally. But now there has been a significant change in the trend of evaluating the performance, where you are moving from this traditional performance evaluation system to what you call the new or progressive performance evaluation systems, and that is from annual performance system you are moving to what we call a continuous performance evaluation system. So, it is something like this. When you are talking about performance review, you have a traditional performance review systems. This is what we call as performance review, happens either annually, semi annually or quarterly. And what you are going to review? The performance of the individual or team or the department, anything, or even the organization also, right. So, basically you are going to evaluate the performance traditionally. Okay. So, appraisal happens, right, and after that appraisal you are going for the review. Who is going to do this review? This will be done by the supervisor, right. Mostly immediate supervisor is going to do this review, right, or it could be done by the individual also. When you are going for self appraisal, you ask him to review his performance, how well he has done it, or there could be a team of people who are going to do this review. In the most traditional sense, it is done by the supervisor. So, this is the traditional performance review system. Now, we are moving to a more what you call continuous performance evaluation, right, performance appraisal system. Okay. It means that you are going for a regular evaluation. It could be per day what he is doing, week, or on a monthly basis you are going to observe and document of the performance. Okay. So, many companies are moving from annual reward systems or annual review systems to what you call a continuous performance review system, okay, where they are going to review your performance on a regular basis as and when it happens. Okay. And this system has been found to be more effective, right, compared to this one. But many companies still find this kind of system more helpful, because they need to devote lot of time, effort and resources for doing that, and they are not able to afford it. So, cost and time could be certain factors which have companies led to this kind of traditional performance review system. Now, when we are talking about performance review system and you are going to review the past performance, what you are going to review? Basically the past performance, which could be related to a evaluation period, right. Now, evaluation period has to be specified, whether it is annual, semi annual or quarterly, and or whether we are going for a continuous evaluation. Okay. The kind of review system that you are going to adopt in both the systems are going to be different, right. So, we have to see that when we are going for performance review, how we move further or move ahead, and that is where we are going to discuss about these kind of issues, right. Now, so when we are talking about performance review, basically we look at the quality of performance which is produced by the employees, right. And you remember when we are trying to measure the performance, what were the criteria? We used 4 criteria, right. The criteria was quality, quantity, efficiency and time, right. So, productivity is measured in terms of effectiveness and efficiency, right, that is one criteria. Second was quality, right. Third was time. So, using these criteria we are going to evaluate the performance. And once you are able to review the evaluate the performance, and then you are going for review, right. Review basically you are looking at each of these criteria and see whether the person has been able to achieve what he was supposed to achieve and how he has achieved. So, what, why and how are very important when it comes to review of the performance, and it is a very significant step. Otherwise, employees feel that whatever they have done is not being recognized or considered further for any other purposes, right. So, the job of evaluating performance is limited to see that okay, this is the performance level, but when you move further and try to have some kind of review and discussion, basically you make employees sensitive and aware that yes, whatever performance level you have achieved, we are really concerned with it and we want to see that what needs to be done with that one, right. In the review session, you also provide feedback to the employees, right. So, the idea of review is that you look at each and every performance on each and every criteria that you have and you discuss it with him, right. So, the basic idea of review is to see that what they have done, how they have done and why they have done, right. It is not simply looking at past performance. So, it is not just retrospective that you are going to look at past performance and see what they have done, but the idea is to see that based on this what needs to be done in the future. Okay. So, you are not just looking behind, but you are looking at the future, what you are supposed to do, what are the things that need to be done in the future, right. So, it is a future based activity of the employee and the organization, and that is why we move to review. So, that employees get the feedback and can plan about the development, right, and the future courses of action which would be required by the employees, and that is why performance review is an important step in the process. Now, if you look at performance review, it is definitely a part of the entire performance management system, right. Now, if you look at this, we talked about coaching and evaluation both, right. So, coaching, what happens? You are going to have a regular interaction with the employees on a regular basis to ensure that he develops his performance, he develops those competencies which is required for higher performance. You give him feedback on a regular basis, and coaching is real time. Real time means, but then and there you give feedback that see this is how you are doing and this is how you should do, right. It means real, the perspective in coaching is real time and here and now, right. It means that you have to do it there and I will tell you how to do it and then you show me how you are going to do it, right. And the feedback is also in real time terms. Evaluation, what happens after which you go for review is that in evaluation you are going to evaluate the past performance after the performance has happened, right. But it is nothing else but the summary of your performance for the evaluation period. So, it is documentation of the past events, right, where you have documented results against certain expectations what you have achieved, okay, and what are the criteria that you are supposed to achieve, right. So, you conduct a meeting with the employee and tell him this is your performance, this is what your performance is, but review is not limited to that one, right. Now, the idea here is that when you go for review, when you should go for it, right. So, it is now if you look at this, this shows that this is based on a financial year, right, starting with the March that is where, because it starts with the April, right. Your financial year is the performance appraisal year. So, evaluation period is April to March. So, in the March you are going to set the goals for the next year, cascade goals upward, okay. See that how you are proceeding further. Then you go for mid year review, maybe sometime in September, then you assess, your managers assess you sometimes in October, November, then you have meetings, review meetings maybe December, January, and then finally, you look at your performance sometime in the March. Now, why I am talking about this and the difference between coaching and evaluation is the role of coaching is to give you feedback then and there, see how you are going to improve your performance. Okay. So, there the review happens immediately, that is real time, but here in evaluation what happens, this is a documentation of the past events and it happens only after performance has happened, So, based on your observation you go for documentation and then you conduct a meeting within a you have a dedicated time in scheduled time, right, where you talk about the performance of the individual and see that how individual can grow and develop himself, right. So, that is how we differentiate, and though performance review is very much a part of what you call performance management system. Now, moving to the review process, I mean how it happens, right. Why we are going to conduct performance review? What is the objective for conducting this, right? The idea is that give feedback and talk about the development, and that is the basic objective of review. Otherwise, why should we review your performance? Okay. Whatever you have achieved, based on that you will be rewarded or not rewarded. Okay. So, that is the administrative decision we will talk about later, but here the idea here is that give you feedback about what is your performance level in terms of quality, time, efficiency and effectiveness, right, and then think about further what needs to be done next. Now, if you look at this picture, okay, this talks about the employee and his manager. So, they have agreed to discuss their performance. So, they are going for a review. So, they set the path, okay, what is to be done, what is to be achieved, right, further, right. So, and it becomes a part of the performance culture. When we are talking about performance culture, that everybody in the organization has decided or is thinking about a value system where performance is very important. So, it has become a set norm and it is a part of the value system of the organization to think about performance at each and every level. So, whatever you are doing, you are thinking that how it is going to contribute either to my performance or the unit performance or the organizational performance. The moment you start thinking about it, you are creating a culture of performance. So, in each and every activity you see whether it is redundant, whether it is significant and in what way it is going to contribute to the performance of the organization, right. So, the idea is that once you go for performance review, basically you are going to reinforce the expectations. Reinforce the expectations means, okay, now my supervisor will discuss my performance after the review and then I am going to get something out of it, maybe reward, maybe promotion or something like that. Okay. And that is also a way to recognize the performance of the individual. Those who have performed very well, you are going to recognize them by linking it with an appropriate reward, right. Okay. So, in performance review what happens, you are going to generate a document having both the positive and the negatives, in the sense that you are also going to document everything, right, whether he has met expectations, on what criteria he has met expectations, and on what criteria he has not been able to meet expectations. So, the idea here is that when you are going to conduct performance review, you are going to write both the positive aspects of the performance and the negative aspects, and that it also helps you to justify your decisions, right, related to your employment, your career, your progression, your growth, your development, and that is why performance review is an essential part of the system, right. So, looking further, when we are talking about the performance, so what does it provide? It gives you a summary how well you have done in terms of achieving performance standards and what kind of goal you are going to set for the next cycle, right. But in a performance review, it is very important that when you are giving feedback to the employees about their performance, give a very clear and objective feedback depending upon the goal. So, make sure that feedback is related to the goals and objectives of the performance, right, nothing else. Okay. Based on that, you can also identify the strength and weaknesses of the employees, areas where the person has to improve, okay, and areas where they are meeting the expectations or exceeded the expectations, right. So, when you are going to review the performance after the evaluation, in the evaluation you are not saying that whether it is good performance or bad performance, you are simply documenting the performance level of the employees. In evaluation you see whether this performance level has met the expectations or the standard that has been set or not, right. So, and that is why it happens after the evaluation, right. So, it provides a written record of employees performance and this performance is used for certain decisions, and that happens only after the review has happened. So, without review you are not going to take any decision related to the employees. Now, what are the issues that may come up? Now, we have two perspectives, since both of them are party employees as supervisors, because they are part of the process of review, right. What are the problems with the review that happens normally, right? See, it depends upon the level of performance that is achieved by the employees and what kind of attitude and behavior is reflected by the supervisors related to the performance management system, right. Now, if you look at this example, what does it suggest? It means that the kind of attitude the employees and supervisors have towards each other, which may not be favorable. For example, when you go for a review session, okay, and you tell employees that you have not been able to improve your performance, okay, and you want to tell him that okay, tell me how much you have improved, in what way you have contributed to the performance, right. So, as a manager, if you have an attitude that okay, you think that it is a ritual, you have to write it at the end of the review appraisal session, right, because it is important, because there are certain decisions that is to be taken, then it is not good. It is not a very positive attitude on the part of the supervisors, right, because they think that it is a perfunctory or ritual activities which they have to perform every year, right, being the manager of the subordinate, right. Then another issue which supervisor said, that supervisor think that employees want to know about the good things only. They want to hear about the positive aspects, not about the negative aspects. But in reality what happens, that yes, employees have both positive examples or positive feedback, or they might be having certain negative things also. But when you tell them negative things, they become defensive or aggressive, right, because they have a tendency to think about the positive tendencies only, right. And then when sometimes supervisors try to measure the performance in a very quantitative hard way, which is not possible, because not every employee is going to contribute in monetary terms, right. And when you are giving this kind of feedback that yes, you are not improving your performance. So, these kind of feedbacks are not good, right. Similarly, if you look at the employee's perspective, okay, they think that their performance is not reviewed, or they are reviewed very late. The session is over, it should be evaluated in March, but now it is September, they have not been evaluated and their rewards are at stake, right. All check marks, but and no examples. They say that okay, you have not done this, you have not done this, you have not done this, but without any substantial evidence or proof. Okay. And employees also say that supervisor has not been helpful, they have not been provided the kind of support that would be required for them to perform. Okay. So, they did not tell me how to do well, and now they expect me to perform well, or they want me to have good performance. And if you are not linking it with reward, then that becomes another problem. Employees think that you are simply reviewing their performance to know what they have done, why they have not done, in order to take certain administrative decisions, which could be negative in their approach, right. So, make sure that you are able to differentiate on the basis of performance. You make sure that you are doing it with justice, you are fair, you are transparent, you are not making any error, you are giving both positive and negative feedback as a supervisor, okay, and you are not translating everything into monetary terms, in terms when it comes to its contribution, right. Similarly, employees should also be aware that their performance is being evaluated for certain things and they are getting all the support, and it is linked with the reward. And if this happens, probably you will be able to overcome certain problems related to the review. Now, when the review process starts, how it happens, right. So, there are three phases: before the review happens, during the review, and after the review. So, we will discuss what are the issues that need to be looked into at these three stages, right. Before you start, you have very frequent conversations with the employees about their goals and performance. So, that you are able to assess what their performance is, right. You also need to train supervisors in reviews, so that their biases are not there, and the kind of error that we have been talking about, the rating error and these kind of things are not there. So, they are able to rate employees very well. Okay. You are able to ensure that they are not going to be affected by halo or horn effect. It means that they are not only looking at the positive traits and the negative traits. Okay. they are looking at both, and make sure that you communicate that yes, the review is going to happen to all the employees, and it has to be linked with the compensation, it will be linked with the compensation. It means everybody will be reviewed for his performance irrespective of whatever level is there in the organization, right. And then whatever decisions will be taken, it would happen only on the basis of this performance review, and try to do it as frequently as possible, so that you can understand what are the processes and what are the factors which are affecting or not affecting, right. You also communicate employees about performance review and get them ready for the discussion, right. So, if you communicate employees, so they would be ready for the discussion. So, all these steps need to be taken that relate to the training of the supervisors, understanding these issues, okay, communicating employees that everybody would be reviewed, it would be linked with performance, it would be done as frequently as possible, right. So, this basically creates a ground for the performance review, right. Then during the performance review, try to see that each and every area of performance is covered. So, whatever dimensions you have identified in the performance appraisal form against which the person is evaluated is taken care, right, and it has to be in a conversational manner. You ask questions, listen to their feedback throughout the process. Then you give examples on the review, that so that he is able to understand what he has done, right, and then you communicate, okay, this is what you have done and this is what you should have done, right. During the review, you are not, though you are talking about both positive and negative aspects, but focus more on positive strength, because that would give some kind of confidence and self esteem to the employees. But if you focus more on negatives and less on positives, then he might become defensive, right. He will try to defend or become aggressive, right. Then you also talk about the areas where you can improve, right. So, that based upon the kind of feedback you are giving and how you are giving this feedback. So, giving feedback is very, very important. Make sure that you develop the art of giving feedback, right. Then you discuss the goals with the input that is given by the employees. So, you also get employees feedback, see how it is linked with the organizational goals, in what way is contributing, and also see that whatever the individual has done through the evaluation period, if it is annual evaluation, make sure that he is evaluated for the entire period, not just a part of it, right. Then finally, after the performance review, what happens? Make sure that you are able to develop a commitment about the development of the employees, right. Make sure that employees work on a regular basis, not on a part of it, because sometimes employees does not work in few segments of the year, but in few segments they work more to compensate the work that they are supposed to do. So, if they are working continuously throughout the year on their performance and goals, then it will be easy for them to achieve and provide whatever support and resources that is required by them, and then get the support of the employees, okay, for the this process, right. So, if you make sure that whether it is before or during after the review, you create a ground, conduct it properly, and after the review think about the development plan, so that it helps employees to grow and develop. And finally, these are the guiding principles for the supervisor, because since supervisors are involved in the process of review, so they are supposed to get the information for the entire year, so that they are not affected by either primacy effect or recency effect. It means that they are not looking at the first few months performance or the last few months performance. Okay. So, get data on the entire year for each and every dimensions of the performance. Okay. Include the small picture, okay. Show them, okay, these are the things that you have done, but you show them the big picture. It means that, okay, this is what has been done, this is what you should have done, but this is what you have done, right. So, they are able to relate it. Similarly, they are able to visualize the big thing. Okay. This is how they have been able to do it in a better way, right. Give them feedback, but more constructive feedback, that is what I have been talking about, because constructive feedback helps employees to improve their performance. Stop holding feedback hostages. What does it mean? It means do not make them hostage in the name of feedback. Create an environment of openness, right, where everybody is able to concern or express their voice, so that this becomes a good session, right. Whatever feedback is given by the employees, you also accept it. Maybe he would be talking about certain things which did not help them to achieve the goals and objectives. So, unless you listen to them, right, you will not be able to understand it, right. that, and that is why listening and these kind of things are very, very important for supervisors. Okay. And do not compare employees with each other, because each employee is unique in terms of its temperament, in terms of its knowledge and skill base, in terms of its personality. So, do not expect everybody to be alike, and make sure that variable performance is likely to happen. Not everybody is going to performance at the same level. Somebody is going to performance very well, somebody is going to performance an average, somebody is going to performance below average also, right. It depends upon a number of factors related to their knowledge and skill base, then related to their motivation and emotion, related to their personality. That is what makes an individual unique. So, consider these factors when you are going for evaluation and review both, and make sure that it is positive, in the sense that even if there are certain negative things, you tell them this is how you should have done it in order to be more effective, right. And then you try to understand your employees. That is very, very important in terms of their motivation, in terms of their knowledge and skill, in terms of their behavior and competencies, and that would help you to do a better job of review. Okay. So, if you follow these principles, concepts and principles, probably the review process would be much more effective, and you will be able to do justice with that one, right. Thank you very much.